Hello, good evening, and welcome back. Well, he's only gone and done it. Boris Johnson has actually addressed the causes, not just the symptoms, of the problems we have with the NHS, including COVID-19, and said, well, hey, guys, we're the second fattest country in Europe. Maybe it's about time we addressed that and did something about it. Of course, trying to eradicate government overreach with more government overreach is never the right answer. And therefore, instead of questioning the existence of the NHS and if it should apply equally to everybody, instead it's saying, well, how can we make everybody more equal, which is never the right intent. The way that they're trying to get it to work, it's never ever going to work. A simple way would, of course, be to say you've got your insurance and you've got charities, and that will be divvied up as people see fit. So, firstly, from a profit motive, to say, well, you're going to have the cheapest insurance if you're healthiest, and being fat means you're not going to be healthiest. And secondly, from a charity perspective, if you ask somebody, like, hey, would you like to help save somebody's life? Most likely, yes. Okay, cool. Would you rather your money goes to somebody who is overweight and is most likely a reflection of laziness, or somebody who is healthy and has just had some bad luck with a broken bone, for example? So, well, I'd rather help the second person. So in that instance as well, not only have you got the non-lying issues of capitalism to say, well, that's where the money is to be made, but also just human nature to say, I'd rather support somebody who is trying to make life better for themselves than somebody who isn't. So if you take that approach, then of course you're going to get a better result. In doing so, you're not removing free will at all. You're not trying to engineer anything, because you're simply saying people can do what they want to do and support whom they wish to. That if you want somebody else to pay for your healthcare, give them a good reason to, appeal to them, and they will pay it. That is the idea of charity. And you could also say, well, maybe they don't wish to be charitable, and instead company owners will say, I want good employees and ones who don't fall ill, therefore I'm going to cover their health insurance, but in doing so, they must meet these requirements, and therefore they need to be healthy in order to get a job here, because that is what is profitable for me. And I will therefore cover their health expenditure. You could go down that route as well. And then you would, of course, get a lot of sympathy for people who are born with congenital diseases, and therefore they will have the support from charities in order to provide the healthcare that they're looking for. It's a very, very simple solution that enables people to spend money where they wish to and not have to pay for things that they don't want to. Very, very straightforward. But of course, instead of taking the straightforward approach, they are instead deciding, no, we're going to keep the NHS and try and make it harder for people to make their own decisions. Although, credit where it's due, they're saying, well, if overweight people lose £5 or 2.5 kilos, then it will save the NHS £100 million, which doesn't really appeal to the individual, so you're going to have to work on that message a little bit more. They're also trying to get people more informed by any restaurant with over 250 employees have to show their calories on their food, which from what I've seen doesn't actually help. And then also they're thinking about putting calories on alcohol, but to be honest with you, I think we know that it's not good to consume copious amounts of alcohol if you're trying to lose weight. And chances are if you're consuming copious amounts of alcohol, it's not coming from a very happy place. But that is what they wish to do. And then the more proactive forms is just providing free exercise equipment like bicycles to people. But also, more importantly, and well done for this, Boris Johnson himself saying, you don't actually need a gym to lose weight. There are several free applications for smartphones, and of course many YouTubers who will help you get to your desired goal without a gym. And well done, a conservative actually embracing technology. Bloody hell, good job. So as they say, Boris Johnson today announced the government's new plan to tackle obesity. The Prime Minister said he was too fat before he was hospitalised with coronavirus, and good on you to actually take personal responsibility for that. And he goes on to say that when he had a hospital or a doctor checkup a couple of years ago, he was ashamed to admit his late night binges of cheese and chorizo. But well done for admitting it, at least. He said the government will help people get fitter, but not in nannying manner. Maybe. Matt Hancock said losing £5 in weight could help the NHS save £100 million. Again, how does that apply to the individual? Because most people are selfish. They're very self-centered. And if you're just saying it's this amorphous number for tens of millions of people, it doesn't really make any difference. A new strategy will see ban on buy one get one free offers on unhealthy products. And the difficulty with that is the same with wanting to ban any adverts for high sugar, fat or salt foods before 9 p.m. It's that the agreed upon science changes too frequently to then try and tell what healthy food is and what it isn't. That of course we'd have the rise in keto and carnivore diets, in which case you're obviously against sugar, yes, but also against a lot of carbohydrates and vegetables, especially in the carnivorous route. And you're all for fat in the keto route. And these do have high levels of success for the people who go along with them as well. So I think at this point we can all agree that sugar is by and large bad. It is addictive and the most harmful of all. But trying to include fat and salt as well is very misleading. That fat is incredibly necessary. It gets your brain to function properly. Most of all, the omega-3 that we all tout and love is fat. So let's not forget that. And then high salt consumption. Well, what is so bad about salt? The country with the highest salt consumption is Japan, which has the highest life expectancy as well. So where are they getting this from? It seems that salt is just used in conjunction with sugar, and that is what seems to create the link that shouldn't really be there in the first place. So, he said Johnson has, since his recovery, has focused on getting fitter by going on morning runs with his dog Dylan. And they do say that dogs are just like fairy gyms. So, well done. Find anything that you can in order to go outside and exercise. It is great. And I do have a lot of respect for his phrasing on exercise, which I've heard mentioned by people like David Goggins, as it happens, known as the hardest man, who says that when he's training and running, he's not callousing his body for a race so much as he's callousing his mind for life. And the way that he says this here is that, and I start the day by going for a run with the dog, quite a gentle one, but actually getting faster and faster now as I get fitter. The great thing about going for a run at the beginning of the day is that nothing could be worse for the rest of the day. Which is nice and definitely enlightening into his mindset. But I'm not sure if that's the best way to try and encourage people. It's like, hey, so you might not be enjoying your life and how things are working out, but just trust me, you want to do this thing that's going to be the worst thing that you do of the day, and do it purposefully in order to have a better day. And yes, it is true that if you really push yourself, and especially if you follow it with a cold shower, kind of cryotherapy, if you will, then you will end up having a much better day, because by putting yourself in worse positions than other people will, you're going to end up happier and more successful. But trying to win people over with that, I don't think is the best way of putting the message across. That yes, you want to go with a self-deprecating route of, if I can do it, so can you. But is that the best way of putting it? I mean, in his defense, he does say, if you really go in hard, if you really take some exercise at the beginning, the rest of the day will be a breeze. So it's trying to put in that mentality of sacrifice is inevitable because life is suffering. So you may as well choose what you sacrifice and what you suffer for in order to decide the reward that you get. So if you don't consciously decide what you're going to sacrifice, the decision will be made for you. And the pain of failure is nothing compared to the pain of regret. So if you go down the loss aversion route, then do know the hell that you're running away from, as Dr. Jordan B. Peterson says, just as much as the heaven that you're running towards. But the changes, the shops will be barred from pushing buy one get one free promotions, and they'll be banned from placing confectionery in tempting locations such as store entrances and beside checkouts, and will instead be encouraged to offer more discounts on fruit and vegetables until we go down fruit being bad because of the sugar, especially the juices, because you don't have the fibre. Not that fibre is necessarily good, because it is supposed to help your digestive transit, but instead just clogs you up. And again, that's why people who go down the zero carb route don't have any digestive problems like that. They're very regular. And I remember Joe Rogan talking quite a bit about the carnivore diet resulting in explosive diarrhea, it just being that effective at cleaning you out. So they also will put an end to junk food adverts on television and online before the 9 p.m. watershed, so it doesn't affect children and youngsters, as they say there. Calorie counting, if they got more than 250 employees. Health service interventions, that the NHS weight management services will be expanding, with more smartphone apps rolled out with the purpose of improving lifestyle and overall health. GPs will be encouraged to prescribe exercise and other social activities to help keep people fit, with cycling pilots in the poorest areas set to provide bikes to entice people into upping their activities. Never really a good idea to just give people things because they don't know the value of it and never take good care of it. However, people like Patrick Bet-David, who runs the YouTube channel Valuetainment, great for entrepreneurs and salespeople, says that in his life insurance firm, PHP Agency, he gets people encouraged to wear wristbands, which are a bit like Fitbits, if you will, or Garmin trackers, things like that, to measure how healthy they're being and how much they're exercising. And they have financial incentives to be healthier, which comes back to the earlier point of saying that your boss wants you to do well because, of course, you're getting money for him, and the better you do for you, the better you do for him. And being healthy is quite a key point in that, because you're not going to be working very well if you're unhealthy, and therefore he is incentivized to keep you healthy. And as this savvy businessman has found out, it actually pays to pay people to exercise. That people being healthier earns him a greater revenue, and he can share that with the people who are healthier. So the same goes for other people, that yes, you can actually incentivize the health, so it's something that people earn. Instead of saying, you've done utter shit, here's a bicycle, say, oh, you've done well, here's a reward. If you wish to take it another way, seeing as not a fan of government handouts, you could almost put that in a tax way as well, similar to how Japan does it, that the employers are fined if their employees are overweight. You could do a similar thing for English companies, or just have tax rebates for people who are not overweight. Too much government intervention for me, but if they're intent on making it happen, then that's definitely one thing that they could put forward. They're already trying to make up for it with like the sugar tax and higher taxes on alcohol and tobacco products in order to cover NHS costs caused by these pleasures in life. And then food packet labelling, that a consultation, the third associated with the strategy, will gather evidence on how the current traffic light labelling system on food packets is being used by consumers and industry while comparing it to other international examples. The labelling is used to highlight the fat content and other parameters of how healthy a product is to help shoppers understand what is in the food they buy. And again, the RDA, the recommended daily allowances, just come from the Second World War, where they were wondering what rations to put for the troops going overseas, and went, okay, well, what are people eating at the moment? Let's just use that. And it pretty much stayed the same. So there isn't actually science on this is ideal, it's just this is what people were doing in the 40s, and it seemed to work for them, so let's just keep with that. Which isn't nearly as scientifically rigorous as you probably thought it was, or at least hoped it would be. But that's where it comes from. And then they're not thinking that things like you don't need as much vitamin C if you're not consuming carbohydrates, because the glucose receptors interact with the vitamin C receptors as well, and therefore you can have people living at the northernmost places of the globe, not needing to eat vegetables because they're eating meat and they're getting enough vitamin C from the animals, especially from organ meats, and it's not being inhibited because they're not consuming enough glucose or sugar. So it all plays amongst itself, and it's very difficult to nail it down. But of course they're trying. So there has been some pushback, of course, but it's just basically saying they're not doing enough. So Tam Fry, chairman of the National Obesity Forum, said the government's plans were not enough to see an end to the national emergency that obesity is. He said the Prime Minister had completely disregarded former Chief Medical Officer Professor Dame Sally Davis's October 2019 report on childhood obesity, of which he had 49 recommendations that, taken together, did have a fighting chance of doing what the doctor ordered, but Johnson's meagre list falls woefully short. Well, I suppose he's just not wishing to interfere with people too much. Giving people more information is definitely a good way to go. And the same goes with the education system in schools, that when you have your PSHE, and biology as well, they would be prime examples of where to fit in nutritional information. And the same goes for school meal plans, just like Jamie Oliver's been trying to battle for 20 years in order to get children to eat healthier. That, just as a basic aside, that you probably already all know by now, but if you don't, then you really should. If you're looking for something to taste better, you don't have to go for something that's very refined and sugary. If you look at the plethora of herbs and spices that are available, you have such an amalgamation of amazing tastes that combine with foods in a very healthy way and still taste amazing, and it doesn't leave you craving a sticky bun or a custard tart or something like that, because you're very happy with what you've eaten because it tastes great. So look into herbs and spices. I mean, if you can, just next time you're in the supermarket, if they got some potted plants or even the dried stuff, if you can, just pop the lid, give it a sniff. If it smells nice, put it in your trolley. It's about £1 for the dried stuff, and then just try it on the different foods. Of course, you can look on the internet as well to find combinations that other people think work, but at the end of the day, they're your taste buds, so combine it as you see fit, and you'll find that it tastes a lot better. And that is an easy way to be healthier as well. And as I say, the dried herbs and spices are very cheap, and they last a long time. So just trying a handful of things, so an extra £5 for your next month of shopping, I think is a worthy investment to see if it works, and you'll definitely find 2 or 3 of them that you really like and would get again. And the other 2, special occasion. They'll just be in your store cupboard, just like your mother has, I'm sure. Well, we all had that when we were children, that our mother would have a very large spice or herb rack of things that were probably a few years out of date at that point, but they were still there, just in case. Just in case they were ever used in that Christmas cake that definitely used to be made, but we can't remember the last time we had it. But the tradition is there for a reason, and it's definitely one worth looking into. But that's it for now. So the point of this is to say, at least he's trying. The idea of financial incentive for the NHS is great, but it means nothing to the individual. Giving people free things for bad behaviour like bicycles is never going to work. Giving people more information is great, but make sure that your information is accurate and it isn't just propaganda from lobbyists, as the food pyramid was as well. So do your own research, be happy with what you're looking into, and at the end of the day, it's common sense. If you want to be full of sugar, that's going to end up really badly. But if you're looking at your hormones and how your brain works, and you want good testosterone levels, then obviously that's fat, and that's what you need. And then, similarly with salt, for water retention and making sure that you stay hydrated, you do need salt to be hydrated, slightly ironic. Then, yes, on a side note, if you drink a gallon of water in one go, you'll quite likely die because you'll be too diluted because you didn't have enough salt. So yes, salt is also something worth looking into as well. But for other things like inflammatory foods, which is what sugar predominantly is, and too much omega-6 instead of omega-3, as most people in the West tend to have, then that's something you should really be looking into. If you've got painful joints, then up your omega-3 intake. Easiest is from fish, tends to be expensive, so you either get sardines and learn to love the taste, or you try and go down a seed route and just try to blitz it in with things that you're not really used to. Or just lower your processed food and carbohydrate intake, which is so much easier. But anyway, that's it for me. I sound like a broken record at this point. Chances are you know what it takes to be healthy, and you can do it. And yes, exercise is a fantastic thing, and yes, it sucks. But you know that it's got to be a part of your daily routine. And you can push harder on some days than others, sure. But at least have a minimum bit of, let's say, 5 minutes a day that you do. That's 35 minutes a week. And then if you wish to push it more towards 10 minutes, then you've got over an hour a week. And if you do 10 minutes 6 days, that's an hour a week. You have a 7th day off. And then if you feel like doing more, then do it. But the nice thing about having such a short exercise regimen of 5 minutes a day means that it's basically a warm-up within and of itself. So you don't need to do a special warm-up which then takes longer and has to be accounted for. You just kind of jump into it. Burpees, star jumps, push-ups, squats, whatever it might be. You can do it. So just get started on that. And if you're watching this in the morning, getting ready for work, whatever it might be, just give it a go. Or if you've got a lunch break, just do some push-ups and squats. Just for a bit of fun. Just for a minute. Why not? Alternate 5 and 5. But anyway, that's it from now. That you know what you got to do. So do it. And hopefully the Conservatives will look more into freedom of choice instead of forcing people to pay for things that they don't wish to, and support people that they don't want to, and therefore not have the money to support the things that they do want to. But as always, until next time, have a good one.